Welcome to another video from Lockdown Electronics with me, Bill. This time we're going to take a look at a little frequency counter module which I spotted on eBay for about £13. And if you're a regular viewer of the channel, about 3 or 4 years ago I bought a frequency counter kit that was based on a PIC. Built that kit and showed the construction on the channel. Now that particular counter has some potential shortcomings, and I was interested to know if for £13 this module I'd spotted had managed to overcome some of those. So let's go straight to the bench and have a look what it's like. Okay, we'll start by looking at the module which I referred to, which I looked at about 3 or 4 years ago. This is the PIC based module. It's just a kit that you build. You can see that video if you're interested. I've got the 16F series PIC there, which drives these 5 7-segment LED displays. Now the real problem with this, of course, is that the input is connected directly to one of the pins on the PIC, so there is no kind of protection for the PIC, and also it does require a signal of over 5 volts. Certainly a sine wave needs to be greater than 5 volts before the PIC starts to take very much notice. Not difficult to build a buffer, and maybe I'll make a video about that at some point. But yeah, this board works but has its limitations. So the thing I noticed on eBay, which is this device, you can see straight away, considerably smaller. It has a LCD display, and it consists of 2 boards. The top one is the display. I think you can just about make out the workings of the LCD display under there, I guess, which are part of that board. It'd be very easy to mount this inside a case if you wanted to include it in a project. Just make a cutout for that, and you could use those screws to do that. The 2 boards are connected together, separated by those spacers, and the connections here are actually soldered. So separating those 2 boards would require you to unsolder one set of pins, which I'm not proposed to do. So the business end itself then here on the other side, and we've got the PIC, various other components. So we'll do a close-up of the board, and I'll talk you through that on some slides so you can see what's going on. You are provided with connectors for these 2 connections here, which is the power supply and the input, and I'll mention later on that it running on about 7 volts, and at 7 volts with the backlight running, it's drawing roughly 40 milliamps, so it's not consuming lots and lots of power. So that's quite a nice looking little module. Right, let's go and have a look at the close-ups and just try and understand a little bit about what's going on here and see if they've overcome some of those problems of an unbuffered input to the PIC. Okay, here's a close-up of the underside of the board, so you can see things a little bit more clearly. From a general point of view, input is the connections on the left-hand side, signalling at the top, earth at the bottom, and the power supply goes in the centre at the bottom, marked up minus and plus there, and there's a fairly chunky diode to the right of that, which I presumably is the diode that offers the input protection that gets mentioned in the blurb. You've got 6 pins, which are the programming header for the PIC. If you're feeling brave, I don't have the code, and I wouldn't imagine they're likely to give it me, but it does mean there is the ability to do some reprogramming there if you want. Over on the right hand side are the 2 buttons that allow you to access the functions in the software, which essentially is setting the amount and whether it's positive or negative of the offset frequency. If you were going to use the module as part of, let's say, an IF in a radio or something, you could offset that frequency. So the PIC itself, as there's a close-up, it's still the same series as 16F648, and the 8-pin chip that's sort of just left of centre at 2313T is actually a dual op amp. So I was encouraged to see that, because there certainly aren't any op amps on the earlier module. So hopefully that bodes well. Now, a little bit of just checking around with a meter on the front end. Here's a close-up of the front end. We've got the signal coming in on the left there, and the signal is fed straight to that capacitor there. Now, measured in circuit, that's about 47N, which seems about right. And then it's possible to trace the circuit going across with two diodes connected cathode to anode there, and the signal comes in and goes across that junction of those two diodes and then carries on somewhere. This is a multi-layer board, and it's been quite difficult to work out exactly where that goes to, but as you're going to see later on, this thing will work with less than 1 volt peak to peak, or you can increase that, whereas the earlier one we needed at least I think it needed about 5 and a bit volts before the peak would start reading. So I'm pretty sure that the dual op amp chip there is acting as both a buffer and some kind of input amplification to drive the pick, which is quite good. Right, let's go and have a look at it connected up on the bench, see what results we can get. Okay, here's the counter module then, just set up on the bench. I've got it attached to a 7 volt power supply. It's been switched on for about 30 minutes to try and stabilize everything, and the signal source and both the other frequency counters have also been on for at least an hour, just to let everything settle down. So I'm currently feeding in a 10 megahertz signal. Now obviously this counter only reads to 3 decimal places in megahertz, but you can see there, hopefully we've got exactly 10 megahertz. So here's a couple of still images taken of the 2 frequency counters at this point, and you can see that both my frequency counters, the Raycol one is showing exactly 10 megahertz, and the Siglent is also showing 10 megahertz plus about 6 hertz, I think, something like that. So in other words, yeah, to within the 3 decimal places, it's clearly reading accurately. Now if I drop down to, just very quickly, to 1 megahertz, you can see the unit is also saying 1 megahertz. There's a couple of discrepancies there. It's saying 1.024, and if I just clear the display on one of my frequency counters, that's actually saying 1 megahertz. So that's not super accurate right at the bottom end. So let's now go back up to let's go up to 8 megahertz. It seems to have settled down there. Again, we'll just clear the counter display. Yeah, that's just about 3 hertz up. Now the signal generator I'm using is good to 80 megahertz. So let's now go up to 20, and again you can see the unit is following perfectly well there. So I'm going to go up in 10 megahertz steps now. That's up to 40 megahertz. Just give it a moment or two to settle. Frequency counter's telling me that's about 15 hertz above 40 megahertz. So we're just reading a little bit low there. Let's go up to 50 megahertz. Now at this point one of my frequency counters stops reading, but you can see we're just showing ever so slightly low. Not terribly much really, but not too bad. Right, let's carry on right up to 80 megahertz, which is the limit of this particular signal generator. And yeah, it's saying 79.999. Let's just see what my signal generator makes of that. I'm just going to grab a still image of the display which I'll superimpose for you so you can see that. Yeah, so it's slightly out, but really for what it is, it's not too bad at all. Okay, that's as high as I can go using a benched instrument. The next thing I'm going to need to do is set up my higher frequency signal source to try and show you what it's like a little bit higher up. So I'll get set up for that, and then we'll have a look. Okay, so now I've got the counter module attached to the ADF signal generator board, which you've seen previously. This allows me to produce some much higher frequency signals, albeit with a bit less flexibility. So currently I've got it set to 100 megahertz. I've got no other way of checking this. Currently that's reading about 0.001% low, if you want it that way, about a kilohertz. So over 100 megahertz, of course, that's not very much. So I'm going to step up this in 10 megahertz steps, and you can see it is tracking. Incidentally, I've tried adjusting the trimmer on the oscillator here, and it's right at its maximum now, so I can't quite trim out that error, but I did improve it. So we'll go up there to 150 megahertz, still okay. That's 160, appreciate that's a bit of a struggle to see there. 170 megahertz, 180 megahertz, 190 megahertz. Now that's going to go back to 100. So what I'll do now is step up to 200 megahertz there. You can see it's tracking that. Now obviously this is a very high frequency. I haven't got any terminations. There's two bare wires here. This is obviously not incredibly scientific, but it is giving you an idea of how well this thing performs, and it's performing considerably better than the previous PIC-based counter. So let's now go back to the 10 megahertz steps there. So that's 210, and now we're up to 250, and you can see now it's not starting to read correctly anymore. So let's go back to 240. So at 240, yeah, it's not quite as accurate, but it is somewhere near. At 230, it's a great deal more accurate. Now I don't know how variable the output is of this thing. I mean, this thing is supposed to go a lot higher than this, but if I move that now up to that's 700 megahertz, as you can see, it's now, I know this machine does output a better signal at that kind of frequency, but as you can see, this isn't registering at all on the display anymore. But it's certainly good. If I go back down again, if I can, struggling to see it myself, that's set to 130 megahertz, so it's now picked up the correct frequency again. Right, hopefully you've seen some of its capabilities there. So I think for 13 quid, that's that's actually not bad at all, really. Okay, well there's a bit of a look at that PIC-based counter module. The actual specification is a couple of lines taken from the specification as quoted on eBay, and it doesn't really meet those, not as far as I can measure, and I will throw that caveat in because the conditions I checked it under aren't ideal. I haven't really got good quality signal sources above 80 megahertz, but certainly between about 3 megahertz and 80 megahertz it was working very well. They've cured the problem with the PIC being connected directly to the input clearly. This thing will work from less than 1 volt input up to, well, I put it about a 5 volt sine wave, and it was coping with that absolutely fine. So they've clearly sorted that out, and that must be what those dual op amps are doing. And it'd be tempting to say, having looked at that those couple of lines from the spec just now, oh well, that's typical Chinese, they're just inflating the capabilities. Yeah, maybe they are, or maybe not. I'm not really sure my test gears up to that kind of standard. But what we just have to do is just remember that this was £13, or as we like to say colloquially in the UK, 13 quid, which is really not very much money at all. Some pubs in Britain want that much for a couple of pints of beer, which quite frankly I think is outrageous. But yeah, you know, you pay your money. If you want to get something that's a great deal better, you need to spend a bit more. But if that's good enough to use as a display or to use as a counter, if you want to just tat around a bit with electronics, then yeah, it's definitely worth getting one. It's quite remarkable really for the money. So there you go. See what you think from what you've seen, and if you think it's worth spending 13 quid, yeah, get on with it, have a go, fill your boots. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hopefully look forward to seeing you on the next video.